Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Peace Love Hormones podcast. I am really excited to have a little solo episode today. Believe it or not, this is my first solo episode since before our wedding back in May. I took the summer off of recording and I was just enjoying first trimester. I was enjoying the summer, integrating from our wedding, and also had somewhat of a backlog of episodes to release over the summer, so I wasn't totally behind. But I got back to Austin, I got home, I got back into the studio. I've recorded 2 other episodes, one with a doula whose name is Madison, that is already released, and one with Braxton as well, just us two getting to talk about the last a little over 5 months of marriage, getting pregnant quite literally right away, and preparing for parenthood and all that entails. And this is my 3rd episode being back in the studio, and it's a solo episode. And I want to talk today about fertility prep. I want to talk about my pregnancy journey thus far. I want to talk about what I've been doing and what I've been learning as a soon-to-be mama. I'm already a mama, but you know what I mean, having my physical baby here, earthside, in my arms, and just everything that's been going on in my mind and in my heart and in my soul and just everything. A lot's been going on. And I love my Peace Love Hormones community. I can't believe I've been doing this in terms of the podcast and social media and the brand for 5.5 years. And actually, I was doing Instagram a little bit beforehand. So if you were around during the days where my username was Madeline's Cookbook, I just want to say, wow, you have been here for a long time and have seen the full progression. So thank you for being here regardless of when you joined the journey. You're here now. That's the most important thing. And seriously, this just means so much to me, this community, being able to make a living, make a career, make a brand out of what I'm so passionate about, which is women's health and herbal medicine and natural medicine and just healthy living and healthy lifestyle. So how cool that this is work for me, getting to show up to the studio and to talk about fertility and hormone regulation and cycle regulation, about how I'm feeling as a pregnant mama and all of the things. So I feel so honored, so humbled, and I'm just so happy that you all are here in general, but also here today with me listening to this episode. So thank you. And let's get into it, shall we? As always, this episode and all of my episodes have the underlying mission to help women feel empowered and deeply connected to her body through education, through awareness, through self-trust, and also through some herbal medicine wisdom as well. So that's always the mission with Peace Love Hormones, with the podcast, with the products, with social media. So I just always like to give that little preface before I dive into all of my little side tangents throughout this episode. So first, I would love to talk about fertility awareness, because it's a form of birth control, natural birth control, that I'm very passionate about and very pro, and did myself for 5 years, between stopping hormonal birth control pill, doing fertility awareness for 5 years, and then also using fertility awareness to get pregnant. So it is such a powerful tool to regain that autonomy over your body and over your cycle, and to understand your body and your cycle as a woman, and to appreciate each of the different cycle, like the mini cycles that we go through each big cycle, and how to best take care of yourself in every single way, from the kind of more literal, like nutrition and sleep and sun, to the more kind of metaphysical as well. How do you take care of your energy? How social connections and our work-life balance and the way that we talk to ourselves. So all of these things really do impact us as human beings, but especially as women, given our powerful cycles and our more connectedness, more or less, to the inner workings of our bodies and to Mother Nature and to the universe. So I have been using the fertility awareness method, like I said, for 5 years. Fertility awareness, if you haven't done a deep dive into it, do not worry. I have plenty of resources on fertility awareness, and I can do another episode as well. We can do another one in the next recording. We can brush up on things. So just let me know in the comments if that would be helpful for you. If you're listening on Spotify, I'm not sure if you can drop comments on Apple, but if you're on Spotify, you for sure can go drop a comment and just let me know that that's something that you would like to hear in the next episode. But essentially, just a brief overview. Fertility awareness is it's kind of like an umbrella. So picture like it's a big branch of natural family planning or natural birth control. Those two terms can be used interchangeably. And this big umbrella fertility awareness has different methods underneath. So I specifically used and advocate for the symptothermal method. So this is where you're tracking your basal body temperature every single morning upon waking. This gives you insight into where you're at in your cycle, specifically pre or post ovulation, because progesterone in the later half of the cycle does increase your basal body temperature slightly. And it's detectable on a basal body temperature, not on a normal thermometer. So you do have to get a BBT. I can link up the one that I've been using for the last 5 years. Love them. They're called Daisy, Daysy, and they're a German company, but they sell in the US. So you check your BBT, you check your cervical mucus. You can also track your cervical position as well, and you can get in there and feel around, and I think it's beautiful no matter what, because you get to explore your body and learn about your body in that way. But you track those two, optional, the 3, the cervix position, and it feels open or close, because you can literally feel it expand and feel different around ovulation. You track those 3 throughout your cycle, and of course charting is involved as well. So when your last period can give you a lot of insight, but just tracking your period it's not enough. And the period, obviously having a period is important. It's a great sign that your cycle, it can be a great sign that your cycle is on track, but it is not necessarily a sign that you actually ovulated, which is the main event of the cycle, of the entire menstrual cycle. I think we should just call it the ovulatory cycle. I think a lot of people share in that sentiment in the women's research and health space, because it really is the main event in terms of our hormone production. All of the hormones that are being produced to lead to ovulation are very important and really characterize the first half of the cycle, and then the hormones that happen in the later half of the cycle as a result of ovulation and happen because of ovulation, and again prove the importance of ovulation. So anyway, I am just getting into fertility awareness, and I'll save that for a future episode, but essentially it's tracking these to know where you're at in your cycle. And it's something that I've done for the last over 5 years, because I wanted to stop hormonal birth control. I wanted to get my cycle back. I wanted to get my hormones and my cycle regulated. And especially given my history of not really having a healthy cycle, because I had anorexia from a very young age for a very, very long time, which halted my ability to be able to have a healthy cycle. And then I was put on hormonal birth control, the combo pill, for 6 years. So I did not have a cycle for a very long time. And so me as a 21, I stopped when I was 21 years old, the pill. I was working frantically trying to get my cycle back and my hormones regulated. So that's why I decided to do the fertility awareness method, because I still wanted to be safe. I was sexually active. I had met Braxton not too long after I stopped the pill, and a major green flag sign is that he never once was at all worried or concerned or even just questioned or doubted my choice to not be on a pharmaceutical hormonal contraceptive pill or to have the IUD. He never once questioned it. He was always on board from the get-go and supported me and us in that journey as well, and just making sure that we were smart and mature about it all. And it wasn't just me. It wasn't just on me to track my cycle. He was very much so involved. Beyond just so we knew when I was ovulating and knew when to be more safe and use protection. So also that he could support me in all my phases of my cycle and tailor dates to my energy given where I was at in my cycle, and just to better understand me and how my energy and my mood and everything, my ability to just even socialize was fluctuating throughout my cycle. So it is so wonderful. It's so worth it. I highly recommend everyone to get their man on board because it's invaluable and very helpful to have a partner who just makes sure that you are very seen and understood and respected as well. Even still to this day, I mean, I'm pregnant now, so he just kind of assumes I'm always tired. But, before I got pregnant, it was always like, okay, you're in your luteal phase right now. I'm like doing Braxton's little hand rub. He'll go, you're in your luteal phase right now, so we're going to have a chiller date. So anyway, fertility awareness for both the woman who's doing it for her own body and for her male partner is just so beautiful. It's a way you become closer to yourself. You respect your body and appreciate your body and your cycle a lot more. And it adds this really beautiful depth and layer to your romantic relationship as well. And the beautiful part about it is when you are ready to get pregnant, if that's something that you want to do, I know plenty of people who that having children is just not in their future, in their cards, and that is totally okay. If you do want to get pregnant and you're listening to this, it is such a magical tool because you know your cycle so well that you don't even have to track all of these signs as you get really comfortable with your cycle. I would say I'm very kind of type A, hence why I do what I do, and I can be a researcher and, be an herbal medicine and have literally a medicinal brand. But because I'm that way, I definitely did not ever leave things up to chance. While we were dating and even just engaged, I was like, I cannot wait to have babies with Braxton. And I was like, there's a plan. We have a plan. And, obviously plans don't always go to plan. And that's just the nature of life. But, I didn't want to rush that. I wanted to have our time together. I wanted to have our engagement was about 11 months, a nice engagement where we're not rushing through planning a wedding, where we really got to just soak in being fiancés, which was so much fun. I loved that chapter. And it was so crazy at the beginning to, you consciously had to be like, okay, he's my fiance. He's not my boyfriend anymore. So yeah, Braxton proposed to me around our 3-year mark. And then because our engagement and our planning we took about 11 months to do that. By the time we got married in Italy, we had been together for 4 years, and it was a perfect timeline. And by the time baby girl gets here, it'll be about 5 years together where it was just us two. And anyway, I'm really, really happy that we got that time together. We talk about that in the episode where it's just Braxton and I chatting, just, how magical this phase is. It's just inexplicably magical. If you're a parent, you understand just how insane it is to be growing and carrying your human. And then, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine, we'll find out in only a matter of a few months, but to be able to hold our baby, half of me, half of Braxton in our arms, and so magical. And that being said, just being Braxton and I the last, again, almost 5 years was so magical. And I'm really happy that we had that time together. I'm like choking up because I get sentimental for sure over it, because it is the closing of a chapter, and it'll never just be us two. Even when our kids move out and are adults, like, we are parents for the rest of our lives. And I'm really happy we had that time to bond, just us two, and travel the world. And for us, that was just, it was magical and very beautiful, a beautiful chapter of our relationship together. But again, going back to fertility awareness, when we wanted to get pregnant, so we knew that I was going to be ovulating around the wedding. And taking it back just a little micro step, because I had mentioned, if once you get really comfortable with tracking your cycle and using the symptothermal method, which is a form of fertility awareness, you don't have to be so anal about it. You don't have to be so strict about tracking everything. So actually, the irony of it all is about 3 months, 3 cycles before, maybe it was even 4 months before our wedding, I had stopped using the BBT. I lost the charger. I didn't feel like ordering a new charger. And I honestly I didn't care as much. I was like, okay, obviously not ideal to get pregnant before our wedding. My experience of our wedding will be very, very different if I am pregnant. But, the risk is much, much lower now, given like we're getting married, and that's something that we want right once we get married anyway. So if it happens now, it happens now. But also, I just knew and trusted my intuition and my knowledge of my body and my cycle enough, like very strongly. It wasn't just like, oh, I trusted enough. It's like, I knew it. I knew it to a T. I knew that, we wouldn't have an unexpected pregnancy, because I knew when I was ovulating, I knew it was in my luteal phase, I knew when I was on my period, obviously, and in my follicular. So anyway, I stopped tracking, those months before the wedding, but I had gotten the flu B back in February, which pushed my cycle, shifted it back a bit, because my cycle is very sensitive to illness and stress. And it happened so that it all got shifted so that I was actually ovulating on our wedding weekend. And again, I wasn't, stressing about tracking it with a BBT that week. I just knew, I was like, if everything's still on track in terms of my cycle, then I should be ovulating this weekend, our wedding weekend. And so Braxton and I were like, well, let's just shoot our shot, quite literally. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I got a positive pregnancy test. So fertility awareness is just like, that's my whole spiel for you all on just how beautiful and powerful it is that even when you are just starting off and let's say you're single as well, it is a way for you to just be the most connected to your body and to your cycle as a woman. And that's the most important thing, period. I also think that helps call in your perfect ideal mate, and also helps to reveal and expose, if you are with someone at that very moment in time, that is not your perfect mate as well. They could be a lovely person, but perhaps just not your person, right? And once we're really connected with our hormones, our cycle, our intuition becomes that much more heightened. Our ability to detect pheromones as well and give off pheromones, everything changes. Everything really does. So it's really beautiful to adopt the symptothermal method, a form of fertility awareness. And then if you do decide, let's go, it just makes that process a lot more seamless and a lot less scary, because you're like, I know when it's happening, ovulation that is, and then I know when I can track. And that doesn't mean that it can or should happen right away, and it's totally okay if it doesn't happen on the first try, or even the second try or the third try. It's totally okay. But I do feel like it would just provide that extra layer of assurance if you know where you're at in your cycle as well. Because I can't imagine, again, we got pregnant on the first try, so I'm just speaking hypothetically here, and just kind of from my own ability to imagine what that would be like, because I have obviously worked with a lot of women over the years when I had my practice up and running. who were struggling with infertility. And it wasn't even necessarily infertility. Most of the cases actually were it just was taking a little bit longer. And again, that's totally okay. Nothing was wrong with her. Nothing was wrong with her husband. It was just taking a little bit longer. But to be able to, because I know that is from seeing other women go through that, I know it can be a very stressful, to say the least, stressful time, an emotional time. But to feel connected to your body in that way, I do think adds a layer of just positivity, comfort, and assurance as well. So yeah, that's my spiel on fertility awareness. And again, if you're listening to this and you already are like, okay, I feel pretty confident and, I want to start this method, or I know enough about this method already, that's amazing. But if you do want me to do a deeper dive, just let me know in the comments or on Instagram. So also a little side note, we have been asked a handful of times. I think I just answered this in my little mini TED talk. I think I just answered this, but we have been asked a bunch if we planned this, if we wanted this to happen. And yes, for sure, we wanted this to happen. I guess, kind of planned it in the way that, again, we knew I was ovulating over our wedding weekend, which was just a lovely, turn of events because I had gotten sick back in February. So it shifted my cycle and we're like, is this a sign? But, we knew I was ovulating. We knew what we were doing. We knew, 1 + 1 equals, baby, if it works out. And, so we were so excited when we saw that, with the pregnancy test, it was confirmed. We were super, super excited and blissed out. And, it was an insane feeling and moment because you go your whole life or your whole, I guess maybe let's just say like everyone starts different at different times. So I'll just speak for myself. I basically from, 16 years old, maybe a little bit before that because of sex education classes in high school. You go from that age up until, the age that you want to get pregnant, where you are just trying everything to not get pregnant. And then one day you just go, okay, it's time. Like, we really want this. And, I found my person and we're in love and we want to bring a child into this world. And, for us, it was like, yeah, we're ready. We're excited for this. And so it's a funny shift in your mind as a woman, and Braxton too, I'm sure as a guy, to be like, oh no, it's go time now. Like, we actually want this to happen after so many years of trying everything to make sure that didn't happen. But I would love to talk about some fertility prep as well. Oh, and one more note, just to conclude on the fertility awareness and, our conception and all that stuff. I would just want to say, and I know this is so much easier said than done, especially for my couples listening who have been struggling with infertility for a long time, but just surrendering to the process, I think, is something that I've really taken away over the years from having talked to women and worked with women who did struggle with not conceiving as quickly as she would have liked to. And again, a few women with infertility as well, or we'll just call it fertility issues. It's just when we can just reinforce in our own mind and heart and body and soul that we know our body and that our body knows what to do when it's ready to do it, and just surrender to that process and surrender to that magic. I think that is when it really happens. Like, we just have to, aside from like the physical, right? And from the biochemical of making sure your hormones and you and your husband's fertility and your hormonal health and, everything, your metabolic health, everything is healthy. Aside from that, I do think there's so much energetics and spiritual that goes into conception. And the more that we can surrender to, sometimes there is a plan for us and we don't fully know it, or understand it, but just trust that, like, the universe, God, Gaia, all these things has your best intention at heart, and there is a plan. And so anyway, just releasing control, surrendering a little bit, and just trusting your body, trusting the magic and power of your body as a woman. is just something I would advise to always kind of come back to if you are stressing over getting pregnant right now and conception. But on that note, let's get into some fertility prep that we did both consciously and unconsciously, subconsciously. So I was obviously taking very good care of my health and was making sure that my nutrition was very optimal. And this was more so for myself too, like this, above all, I just wanted to be healthy myself. And so over the last, many years, I've been working on my nutrition, my relationship to myself and to my body after so many years of struggling with anorexia and disordered eating, and my relationship to food, my relationship to spirituality. And there are so many things that I was consciously doing to support my own health, and knowing too, of course, in the future, I do want children. I want to be able to have children, number one, and in order to get pregnant and to have a healthy pregnancy, to have a healthy baby, to have healthy breast milk, to nourish that baby, all these things, I need to do that work on myself first to be prepared for that. And I can't do it the few months before getting pregnant. Ideally, we do this for, years before we decide to get pregnant. And we really just take that time to take care of ourselves before we bring that life into this world, if possible. If you only have 6 to 12 months, let's say, if you're like, I want to get pregnant in the next year, it is never too late to start taking care of yourself and to optimize nutrition and to eat more fertility boosting foods. And it's never too late to work on your mental health, your relationship with yourself, going to therapy is something I highly recommend everyone does, especially if you're pregnant. So anyway, there are so many things that I was doing consciously. I was making a conscious effort to support my health, my mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health over the years. And my biggest thing was I needed to work on releasing control, because with anorexia and disordered eating, there is such this strong grip on things, on life, and this strong desire to control things. And this has been the biggest lesson in surrendering, absolutely, in my entire life, being pregnant. But also I'm able to surrender to the surrendering because I did all of that work beforehand. I would not have been able to, in the mental state that I was in when I was really struggling with restrictive eating, disordered eating. I mean, first of all, it would have been incredible if I was even able to get pregnant. Honestly, I think it would have been a huge struggle. And I had doctors telling me for a long, long time that I was really negatively impacting my fertility. They were even telling me that as a teenager, that it was going to be very hard in the future to get pregnant with how the state of my health was and my body was. And so anyway, I was doing a lot of work on releasing control before getting pregnant, and now it's really beautiful. Like, pregnancy has been this very redemptive process for me because I've been able to see just how much work I've done on myself. And because I've done all that work over these last, 6+ years, I've really been able to enjoy pregnancy a lot more. I've been able to not just accept my changing body, but to actually love my changing body and to watch my skin stretch and my belly grow. And I don't check my weight on the scale. I haven't in many, many years, but to know as well, like, I'm gaining weight because I'm carrying my baby. And it's not just the baby, it's all these other things that are changing that are causing my body to put on weight. It needs to have reserves as well. It needed reserves before getting pregnant as well. And so it's just been such a beautiful, redemptive journey for me because it's shown me how much work I've done on myself that I'm able to, here are some minor examples, right? Like, listen to my cravings, because pregnancy cravings are legit, and I listen to my cravings, even if that means eating yogurt for every single meal, which was totally the first trimester because I was like, I need protein, but like I had aversions to so many foods in the first trimester, much past that. But, just to be able to listen to cravings and again, accept and love my body as it's changing. And we'll get into this as well later in the episode, but just like the identity shifts that have come thus far with being halfway. Well, right now, by the time you guys listen to this, I'll be over halfway through the pregnancy. But at the time of recording this, I'm halfway through my pregnancy already. And it's like the amount of identity shifts that I've already experienced would probably be really scary, understandably scary to me if I hadn't done all this work on myself over the years and really worked through just surrendering and releasing control over, because again, I wanted to control every aspect of myself and of my life and all these things. And, I'm just flowing with it. You have to flow with pregnancy really, or else, it could drive you mad for sure. If you can't release to the, okay, I'm feeling tired again for the 100th day in a row, and I need to nap. I need to sleep in. I need to rest more. I need to skip that workout. I need to listen to my cravings. I need to talk kindly to myself. And anyway, pregnancy is a very spiritual journey, and that does not mean that it has been easy for me. It does not mean that it has been all been rainbows. It is, it would be insane for anyone to say that pregnancy didn't change them, because it is in and of itself, it is a shift from maiden to mother. It is a massive transformational shift. And so with that brings up literally so many emotions, all of the emotions. And also, by the way, all of these emotions are a million times more heightened because of how pregnancy hormones are working. And even just on that note, like on a biochemical level, the way that our hormones are and the way that also changes our neurotransmitters, it makes you feel different. Pregnancy, like, it has to, in and of itself, make you feel very, very different. And so, again, that's not to say that, do all this work on yourself beforehand and then it's just going to be a walk in the park. Like, it is a lot. It is a lot. And that is why, though, not because it would make it easy, but because pregnancy in and of itself and being a mother is not easy, that it is important to do that work beforehand and during pregnancy and during motherhood as well. I'm very happy I have my therapist that I've gotten super close to over the years, because sometimes I just need to go in there and just like brain dump how I'm feeling and the things that are popping up for me. Because it really changes not just day to day, but moment to moment throughout each and every day as well. Everything from my energy to my mood. And that's all to say, this is such a magical, insanely magical process. But the two can coexist. It can be magical and it can be the most life-changing, life-altering, different thing, foreign thing you've ever done in your entire life. And it's actually kind of funny because you don't have control over it. And that's a good thing. I don't have to wake up every single day and consciously think to myself, okay, today we need to create this part of her body and this part of her brain. It's just, my body is just doing it. My body is taking the nourishment that I'm giving it. That's like the most conscious thing I have to do. And it is transmitting that into her nourishment and fuel and my body's fuel to be able to carry out these processes of growing a human. And so before that, so anyway, fertility prep, again, like we weren't like, okay, we want to get pregnant in the next 6 to 12 months. Like this is what we're going to start doing. It really for Braxton and I was just a lifestyle. We, obviously different paths. Braxton has never struggled with disordered eating. Lucky him. Thank goodness. I would never wish that on anyone. And, but these last few years, especially like the transition from veganism and out of veganism for me was really the final leg of my, personally for me, I'm speaking for myself, for my disordered and restrictive eating. And because I tried to convince myself and everyone else for the many years that I was plant-based, that it was, it was for the animals. It was because I did all this research on the meatpacking industry and it was for the animals. And I was lying. Like that, I knew I was lying to myself. I did do research on the meatpacking industry for literally for one of my school projects. So that part wasn't a lie, but I was lying to myself that that was the deep reason for why I was cutting out animal foods. The real reason was that I was afraid of them. I had convinced myself they were bad. And that, yeah, again, they were bad food and I shouldn't eat them. And it was a way for me to have control during a time of my life where, you know, especially when I was going through, because before I went like full blown vegan, I was vegetarian and I was in high school. I was still living at home. This is when I was still, you know, going in and out of different treatment programs that my parents were putting me in for my eating disorder. And so I told my parents, I told them the story. That was when I created this narrative around, I don't want to eat animal products anymore. And, you know, I kept telling them, it's not because this is a disordered pattern. This isn't the eating disorder. This isn't the anorexia. This is like my, you know, I want to take care of the animals. And, you know, my parents reluctantly were like, okay, and talked to the doctors and the dietitians about it. And they're like, okay, if she can still eat some yogurt and cheese, then we can do it. But, you know, and so we did that. I was vegetarian. And then by the time I got to college and was living on my own, I really reverted back to a lot of just restrictive eating patterns. And again, it was just like the mentality that I had around it was not healthy. And so for me, that was the final leg of my journey. And it was, you know, something that I was doing by myself. It wasn't because I was this young teenager living at home where my parents were putting me in these programs. This was me, adult me, going, I don't think this serves me anymore. And I can't keep telling myself that I feel good on this way of eating. And I can't tell myself that this is genuinely, like, this is how I want to raise my children as well. And Braxton, you know, was very much so not a vegan or a vegetarian or plant-based. He loves plants, but, you know, he definitely, getting to watch him be so intuitive with his food choices and with his eating and to not stress about it. It was another emotional moment for me. It was one of like the most healing things ever in my life, to just be able to be so in love with someone and literally spend like every waking moment with this person pretty much, who was the exact opposite mental and physical state that I was in at the time. And he just had this utmost food freedom, and he didn't view any foods. We're talking about real foods here, coming from the earth, animal based or not. He didn't view any foods as bad. And it was so beautiful. And so, yeah, over the years, you know, I slowly started to incorporate things back into my life, starting with bone broth and eggs. And, anyway, now it's to where, cause ironically, this baby is like, girl, we love dairy. And so ever since being pregnant, dairy's been my biggest cravings. And I never, ever, ever had one moment during my first trimester when I felt those cravings come on where I ignored them, where I judged them, where I got scared of them. I was like, let's do it. Dairy was the only thing I wasn't eating, because I did try to have some dairy over the last few years that I've been, you know, I just eat everything now. I eat all animal foods. I just couldn't do dairy because it would make me get some rashes and breakouts and a lot of phlegm in my throat. But I listened to that craving right away once I got it during pregnancy. And this baby has been built off dairy, I swear. So much yogurt. And it's just been this beautiful redemptive process. So again, like, you know, about fertility prep, it's more so just taking care of ourselves. And everyone's journey is so, so different. I'm very much so talking about my own journey right now and focusing on that, because it's all I know. It's what I know best, and the things that I had to come to terms with and face for my own health and well-being, which 110% made getting pregnant. as flowy and as easeful as it was. And, I was able to eat all the fertility foods because at that point I had incorporated all those foods back into my life, like oysters and fish, and especially high quality raw fish, sushi grade fish, which is so bioavailable in its nutrients, and high in selenium and iodine and all these really healthy, fertility healthy foods. And, again, beyond fertility, they support your metabolic health, your neuro health or neuroprotective foods. And so anyway, I had just been incorporating all these foods and working on the mental, emotional, physical aspects of my health because I wanted to feel better, and that helps me to get pregnant. Now, I will do a whole other episode in the future on, because I know that there is a huge need for, I do, I'm speaking for someone else, right? But I do want to get pregnant in the next 6 to 12 months, Maddie. What can I do to start boosting my fertility? So we will definitely get into that in another episode. But just an overview of what I was doing. Again, we just got into a lot of the kind of the mental, physical things that I was doing, but also sleep and managing stress, because anyone who really knows me knows that I do not live a stress-free lifestyle. I own not one, but 2 businesses. I was getting my master's of science last year, planning a wedding, and running these businesses. I was in an accelerator program for one of the businesses last fall. There was a lot going on, and that's kind of how I live my lifestyle. But pregnancy has made me slow down a lot, which has been so beautiful and a good prep for motherhood, for early motherhood. I do not live a stress-free life, but I have definitely learned how to manage the stress. And some things you can do consciously to manage stress, like meditation and making sure you get to bed on time, nutrition as well, high quality foods, healthy fats and protein and carbohydrates buffer stress as well. But also just being able to disconnect on the weekends has been huge for me. Being able to be with my friends, with Braxton, travel brings us a lot of joy and happiness as well. So getting to have that be a regular part of our lives, and especially while we still can, we'll travel as much as we can with her, but it'll just be very different, of course. But yeah, getting outside and just, it was really the mentality around what I was doing and all the things I was doing in my life that was the most important for me, because my mentality around what I was doing, it wasn't oh my gosh, this is so stressful, this is too much, I can't handle this. It was I'm so happy and blessed and honored that this is my life. And I'm, don't get me wrong, I've had days where I've been, especially over the last year, where I've just been burnt out from everything that I had on my plate. But I would let myself feel that, and then I would go back to, but I'm really grateful for my life. I really, really, truly am, and I mean it, and that's authentic. And so I do think a lot of the times it's not about removing stress from our life as much as it is just reframing how we view that stress in our life, and then also having those tools like sleep, like nutrition, like movement and exercise and sunlight and getting outdoors and community with family, friends, loved ones to be able to buffer that stress as well and have a regulated nervous system, which is just absolutely massive. Because again, at the end of the day, stress is inevitable. But what matters is that we don't overanalyze things and we're able to just regulate and come back to balance as well, which is another episode I want to have in the near future with, I'll bring on either a therapist or a psychologist who can really just talk about, because again, we do live these very kind of busy, chaotic lives. Again, my life is not like that right now that I'm pregnant. I've really taken a million steps back, and I live a much more chill lifestyle right now. But before that, it wasn't so much that the case, and to have someone come in and really be able to talk about that, because again, I think there's so many things that we can do to buffer stress that don't have to involve actually removing things from our life, like removing a job or removing, I don't know. There's so many things, going on in our lives, but it doesn't have to be you're removing that or cutting that out as much as it is just reframing it. Okay, let's talk about early pregnancy. For me in the first trimester, I think the main point that I took away from the first trimester is the duality of joy and anxiety, because I felt very anxious during first trimester. And it wasn't every single day. It wasn't crippling. It's hard to explain, honestly, it's hard to explain anxiety in general, but especially when it's pregnancy anxiety, it's hard to explain because everyone's experience with that is very different. I feel blessed that I never experienced pregnancy loss or fertility issues. So my anxiety wasn't stemming from that as much as it was stemming from this fear of the unknown and uncertainty, because it was my first pregnancy. And because we kept it secret from our family until we were able to get back to the States, because we were in Europe when we got pregnant. And we stayed there for 6 weeks, actually closer to 8 weeks. So we didn't get to tell our families. For example, I didn't get to tell my mom. I didn't tell my mom until I got to see her in person, because I wanted to tell her in person. And so a lot of the internal worry maybe would have been eased if I could have talked to my mom earlier. Maybe it wouldn't have been at the same time, because a lot of it is just this uncertainty of what's going on. And, even if you can have your mom or your sister or someone kind of explain to you, or a friend explain to you, oh, that is normal during first trimester and don't worry about this and you got this. Obviously, that's super supportive and invaluable. And at the same time, I think your mom senses are starting to kick on and you're just very concerned and in love with this being that is growing every single day inside of you. And the idea of it ending in loss is very, very scary, or it not being okay for whatever reason. And so that was really the anxiety for me. Was it almost didn't feel real. I also didn't experience morning sickness. I didn't have a lot of the stereotypical first trimester symptoms, which we'll get into that in a future episode. Morning sickness tips and things that you can do before getting pregnant to also mitigate that. A lot of things go into morning sickness, including your man's sperm. So we'll talk about that in a future episode. But because I wasn't experiencing those symptoms, and you don't have a bump, you're bloated, but you don't have a bump during first trimester. So it all just felt very uncertain at times and very nerve-wracking, because obviously there's a higher risk of loss in the first trimester. And so I think sometimes knowing too much is actually can hinder our ability to release and surrender to the process. And I'm a researcher, so I know a lot, too much sometimes. And so I was worried. I definitely had some anxiety during the first trimester here and there that would pop up. And that's why it was so important for me I found a midwife early on to be able to talk to, and sought a lot of comfort out in her as well. And then, of course, when I told my mom and my family and my sisters, that was really, really supportive as well. But it was the duality of this bliss and joy of, oh my goodness, we're pregnant. And all of a sudden, all of our conversations shifted to pregnancy and postpartum and motherhood and fatherhood and just all of these things. And it was just like the best thing ever for us. And at the same time, the duality of I had internal anxiety about it. And luckily, Braxton was just like a rock. He is my rock. And he always reminded me, your body knows what it's doing. We're not losing this baby. Don't worry. And my sister reminded me too, or maybe it was my mom. One of them reminded me that the worry is really just care and love. And it's so normal and it's so good to have that as well. So obviously it doesn't always feel comfortable, but it's a good thing for sure. But that's more of the emotional, mental. On the physical side of things, I knew I was pregnant right away. Aside from I did get implantation spotting. So that was like my earliest sign, physical sign that things were happening, that a pregnancy was forming, was I got allergies because of estrogen rising so much in early pregnancy and the estrogen histamine connection. So I had allergies. I was getting sneeze attacks where I would sneeze like 20 times in a row. Braxton would count them. And I would just get, like stuffy congested nose at the beginning. So that was a pregnancy symptom. I was very bloated. I honestly just felt like I had extreme PMS. It was like bloated, tender breast, was getting some little breakouts, and just a little moody. I was like, wow, I feel like I either am pregnant or I'm having some extreme luteal phase PMS right now. So we will see once I take this test. And fatigue too. I remember this one day, I was in our hotel room. I opened up my laptop because I was going to do a little bit of work for Peace Love Hormones. And all of a sudden, it literally just felt like if I could label a sound to how my brain and body felt in that moment, it was this. Zoom. In terms of my energy, like all of my energy just felt like it was sucked out of my body. And so the fatigue was real, for sure. I would say the fatigue definitely got a million times worse as I progressed throughout first trimester. But that was one of the earlier signs as well. And also going back to the fear, I think part of my fear was touching on what I was talking about earlier, was that I was a little worried about my history of anorexia and disordered eating, that would impact my ability to carry out the pregnancy and have a healthy pregnancy. And so some old, very, very old wounds like that were coming and resurfacing. And so it really was just something I had to talk through with Braxton. I talked through it with my mom. I talked through it with my therapist, and honestly just breathe through and surrender to, and just remind myself, like literally talked to myself and to my baby, and just go like, we're okay though. That was a long, long time ago. We are okay. But yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from first trimester was just the duality of everything. And if you did experience, or you currently are experiencing, some of those first trimester symptoms, like the morning sickness, as well as the fatigue, as well as the moodiness and everything, food aversions, it is like, again, just the biggest lesson of the duality of life and the duality of motherhood is that like you can be experiencing all of those symptoms, which are not inherently positive or feel good symptoms. And also you can feel that excitement and that bliss. So it really is pregnancy as a whole. It really magnifies everything, especially as you continue to progress throughout pregnancy. Everything is just magnified, and you just have like total, like you're hyper aware of like, you know, your emotions and the gratitude and other people's energy and your energy. And you are just this magical being when you're pregnant. And you're able to tap into this intuition that has always been there and is always there as women, but is just a million bajillion times more magnified when you're pregnant. And actually my midwife reminded me of that the other day, and she got teary-eyed as she was saying it. She was like, we are just magical when we're pregnant, and our intuition is so heightened. So really listen to your intuition, ladies, because I've had so many moments where I'm like, okay, that person or that thing or that event or that trip like maybe doesn't feel totally right in my body, and I don't even know why. I can't explain it, but like there's like some fear around it or some stickiness around it or whatever it is. Just listen to that intuition for sure, because your body, your mind, and your baby are all guiding you. So that's just something wonderful. But yeah, second trimester has been a trip. Let me tell you, it has been, talk about all of these new and heightened emotions, and as well as just identity shifts. I just feel like things that I used to feel so connected to or interested in just don't necessarily feel that way anymore. And I've definitely felt loneliness for sure. And I need to make some mama friends for sure. It feels really good that my older sister, she's my older sister, and then my older brother's wife, so my sister-in-law, both are moms and have multiple children. My older sister is actually due any day now with her second, and so I have them too in my life, who are really, it's so supportive having them. And I've met a few moms in Austin as well. And then I do have one friend, and she's also like literally go into labor right now. And we're both having girls. And so that feels really good. And I think I'm realizing that I don't need all of these mom friends, especially at the beginning when, we're going to be in our own little bubble, but to have a few core mom friends, and that can be family as well, I think is so important. So if you're a mom listening to this, if you're pregnant, definitely finding just like a few women who you can really confide in, I think is really important, especially as you're going through all of these shifts and identity shifts, and you're becoming this new woman literally every single day. And it's just such an emotional, tender time. And it's really something that no one else can understand or relate to unless they've been through it. They can at least understand what it could feel like right now. Again, everyone's experience with pregnancy and motherhood is different and unique, but there is this like shared wisdom there's this shared common ground where we can relate. Like a prime example is we were over at Braxton's cousin's place for dinner last night, and they just had their baby 5 months ago. And, her and I were just talking about pregnancy and motherhood and birth the entire time. And we just both had this moment where like, this is so amazing. Like, this is so comforting. We've always loved each other. We've always loved our conversations. And how cool is it that we're talking about motherhood things right now? And I do feel like it really can bind women together for sure, because we just understand each other and appreciate what we're going through and our experiences a lot more. It's truly like the ultimate welcome to motherhood, I think, in the second trimester, because you still have anxieties, but they've changed shape. They're no longer so much about loss or something going wrong as much as they are about planning for birth, planning for postpartum, planning for motherhood, planning for, or not even just planning, but just realizing all of these things are coming, and they're coming really quickly. And it's also unknown. You can take all the classes, you can read all the books, you can do all these things, you can talk to all these moms, but it's still going to be a very unique experience for you. And so the fact that you can't prepare so much for it, the only thing you can really prepare for is to learn to surrender and to learn how to survive off little sleep. Although that's not something you can really prepare for either, but your body primes you a bit once the baby's here, of course. That's been like the biggest thing so far during the second trimester, is just feeling like a new person. And sometimes that feels really lonely, but mostly it feels really magical, and just trying to find, a small crew of people, of women, of moms who like we can confide in during this insanely wild time. And of course, having Braxton, he is like truly the best partner I could have possibly imagined to do this with. And at the same time, how men and women process birth and parenthood is also just inherently different, because we are different beings. We are not the same beings, and we can't be one another, and we can't be inside each other's heads, even if we're super communicative. So anyway, having a good, strong partner is so important during this, and I'm just like so grateful that I found him, that we found each other. We are going to take a quick little break, everyone, and resume after these advertisements. This episode is brought to you by Peace Love Hormones, my herbal supplement company designed to help women reconnect with their bodies and find balance naturally. As a clinical herbalist, I formulate each tincture using organic herbs that support your hormones, your cycle, your fertility, your sleep, your metabolism, your digestion, and more, all through the wisdom of plant medicine, which is the original form of medicine. Our best sellers, Soothe, Sleepy, Crampy, and Gutsy, are loved by thousands and thousands of women who are finding relief and peace in their daily lives through natural herbal medicine. You can learn more and shop at peacelovehormones.com and follow along on our Instagram for more education and support beyond our podcast. Because your body was made to heal, it just needs the right support. You can use code PODCAST to save on your order. Okay, now let's get back to the episode. Okay, we are back. I also needed to take a little restroom break because, well, I'm pregnant and this lady has to go to the restroom quite often. So here's some things that I'm doing right now in pregnancy to support a healthy pregnancy and also my birth plan and postpartum plan. So this is where it's at right now. And I will continue to update you all throughout the last few months of this pregnancy. So right now I've been doing a lot of body work and spiritual work. So like birthing classes, that's more educational, analytical part of the brain, as well as meditation, therapy, things like float tanks for the more nervous system, emotional, spiritual aspect. And then the chiropractic care. Acupuncture I was doing weekly during first trimester. I will probably pick it back up again here soon, but I've taken the last few months off of it. But I have been seeing my chiropractor who specializes in prenatal, postpartum, and pediatric chiropractic care. And I saw a pelvic floor therapist for the first time last week just to get things checked in on. Everything's really good. So I'm going to see her in 4 weeks from now for just another check-in. But honestly, it's all just been rest and sleep and just listening to my body and eating super nutritious foods. I highly recommend listening to my episode with Lily Nichols, who's a dietitian and has written a handful of books concerning pregnancy and nutrition. But she came on to talk about real food for pregnancy, which is also the name of one of her books. She's a wealth of knowledge. She really debunks a lot of the just outdated pregnancy nutritional guidelines that are out there, most of which are either outdated or were just never correct or sound or based in science to begin with. So, because I know I've received a few messages on Instagram when I'll post my meals, because I post my meals on my stories all the time. And I've received a few messages from women just genuinely curious about, I didn't know we could eat that during pregnancy. And I, just refer everyone to listen to that episode, to also read that book. She cites all of the research all throughout the book. So you can also go and look at the research yourself if you're like me and like to just look at that and get some reassurance there. But also just like our bodies really guide us. And for example, I do eat raw fish. I eat sushi, the low mercury fish, of course. But it's actually really nutritious and nourishing. And there's a reason why women in Japan, when pregnant, have been eating sushi for a very, very long time. It's super bioavailable and it's micronutrients, and it's essential fatty acids and iodine and selenium, and is actually able to, I'm still choosing lower mercury fish. The handful of times that I have eaten sushi, like salmon. But, like the iodine, selenium, these micronutrients actually help to bind to any mercury anyway. So there are a lot of benefits to eating it raw. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, of course, just eat it cooked. Just do whatever feels best for you. But yeah, I definitely, I feel really good. And this has been a really healthy pregnancy, all things considered, very easy first trimester because I didn't have any of the stereotypical symptoms. Aside from fatigue, which you can only do so much about the fatigue. Your baby and hormones being produced by the placenta really running the show there. But Yeah, I've been feeling good, pretty good, all things considered, and very nourished. I feel super nourished, and I've been resting a lot. And yeah, I'm just trying to optimize the health of my baby girl. She's growing every single day. And, these things are already developed, right? But like, they still could use support throughout the rest of pregnancy in terms of her brain and postpartum when I'm breastfeeding her, but her brain and her nervous system and her cellular health, her metabolic health. What I'm doing now is going to support her a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4, 5, you name it. It all starts here. So a lot of rest and proper nutrition, and just making sure I'm eating enough to, not only am I eating nourishing foods, but eating enough as well. Cause I want a healthy baby, healthy mama, healthy breast milk when we get to that point, all the things. And so another thing I want to mention, in terms of supplements, supplements do not obviously replace nutrition. They are in and of itself, its name, they are a supplement to nutrition and to foods. Just a little extra safety assurance. Not all of it gets absorbed anyway when you're taking a supplement, like a powdered capsule multivitamin prenatal, for example. But I did post the supplements that I'm taking on Instagram, as well as some books that I highly recommend reading. I'll post some more as well now that I've read even more. But I highly recommend going and looking at those posts. And yeah, just remembering, like, supplements, they're not the end all be all. They definitely do not replace eating enough or eating really healthy, nutritious foods. But they are there for extra safety assurance, especially in the early stages of pregnancy and first trimester. If you are only able to, for example, let's say you're can only stomach yogurt and oatmeal or whatever it is. If you're struggling with food aversions and nausea during the first trimester, it is good to have that extra safety assurance with supplements. But yeah, some foods that I've been loving are bone marrow. We make a bone broth rice, and we'll also put like a full bone marrow bone in it too. It's so delicious, and like, truly, I just feel so mentally sharp and energized and stable, like in terms of my nervous system after I eat it. Lots of red meat, lots of dairy. This baby has been built off dairy, I swear. And something that I've not been enjoying are nut milks and nut cheeses. It's like this baby's like, just give me the dairy. He's like, please, all due respect, give me the dairy. So yeah, that's been like a funny aversion, because I usually do love my, like, cashew or almond milk lattes, but I have been a A2 whole milk latte girly for the last few months. First trimester, I did not want caffeine, did not crave it, had huge aversions to matcha, which is like my favorite thing. I'm still kind of not that into matcha. I have one place in Austin that makes it, and I love it so much, and I will drink it from them. But other than that, I'm not a huge matcha or caffeine fan right now, which is ironic because this lady could use some caffeine most days during second trimester, because I'm still really tired. Which is also a funny thing, a little side note. I feel like so many women say you feel amazing during second trimester, and I was just expecting Disneyland by the time I got second trimester. And I even heard and was told that I wouldn't even feel pregnant a lot of days, and that could just not be more further from the truth. I feel pregnant every single day, and I love it, but I definitely feel pregnant. I didn't have a rough first trimester, so I could totally see if a woman did have a rough first trimester, the second trimester, how I'm feeling now would feel absolutely amazing. But I had a great first trimester. I was just tired. So anyway, I'm not as tired as I was, but I'm still really tired. And I don't feel nearly as energized as I was pre-pregnancy, but that's totally okay and normal. So anyway, it's funny the stories that you hear, and sometimes you can relate, and sometimes you're like, I who told me that I wouldn't feel pregnant and that I would feel more energized than pre-pregnancy? Because that is not the case. But I feel good. I just like to joke and mess around. But no, I feel good, and I'm just so grateful for everything. Okay. The last thing I'll say before I get into some baby name things is that this, again, has just been such a redemptive journey, being pregnant. I am just feeling so nourished and so taken care of by myself and also by Braxton. But really, like, I'm just taking such good care of myself, and it's a really redemptive feeling because I spent most of my teens and very early 20s not taking care of myself and being super restrictive, obsessive, compulsive disorder, this very cloison in terms of like nutrition, exercise, health, everything. I just was like so strict about. So this has been very beautiful and redemptive, and I'm nourished, baby's nourished, and we're feeling good. And dairy is delicious. I've missed it. Wow. I've really missed it. Okay, so we do have her name, her first and her middle name. We had no idea that the middle name we picked also happened to be a family name. And the name has felt really clear to us basically since like a week before we found out the gender. I knew she was a girl. I had this intuition, mama's intuition, let me tell you, super strong, but I knew she was a girl. And so we did have a few boy names picked out, but we felt super certain on the girl name. And then once we found out we were pregnant with her that same night, once we found out she was a girl that same night, Braxton and I both were like, for sure, that's her name. So I want to know if any of you have any guesses for what the name is. Remember, both the first and middle name are family names, which I know isn't super helpful because there are many generations of names, first names, middle names, maiden names. But I will say it is it's a classic name. The first name is a very classic, it's very elegant name. It's not like one of the new age names that are around today. It's definitely like a classic. So I'm curious to know if you all have any guesses, and we'll tell you when she's here, when she's earthside and in our arms. But future episodes, I just want to give you all a little heads up on, I know I named a few throughout this episode that we will do, but I do want to do a deep dive on my birth plan, which is looking like it's going to be at home, which I'm really excited for. But I'll do an episode on birth plan deep dive, on breastfeeding, another one on postpartum nourishment, another one on motherhood mindset, and maybe it'll be me and a few other moms chit-chatting, herbal medicine that can be taken during the different trimesters of pregnancy, as well as postpartum. And so many other episodes. There are so many more to come. If you have any recommendations for me, please leave them in the comments below or message us on Instagram. And thank you so much for being here to listen to this episode. And thank you for being here alongside me during this very sacred season. And yeah, for all the mamas listening, I just want to reinforce that this journey it's proof that self-trust, self-love, nourishment, and alignment, all of these things support fertility, support pregnancy, support motherhood. They just support us. They're here to support us. So if you love this episode, please do share with anyone else who you think would benefit from listening to this. Follow us on Instagram, my page, and Peace Love Hormones. All of the links to everything we talked about in this episode that had relevant links, and our social media links will be in the description of this podcast episode. So thank you again. And to every woman listening, regardless if you're pregnant or not, if you're a mom or not, I want to thank you for listening. I also want to say, just remember to always trust your body, trust your timing, know that you are capable of amazing, magical things. you're capable of creating the most beautiful, beautiful things. So in your womb, in your mind, in your world, if you just open yourself up to those possibilities, which if you are here listening to this episode, you already are doing that. Thank you again so much for being here. And until next time, peace, love.